Hello everybody and welcome back to Gardens and Crystals with me, Wesley Peterson, and today I am out in my garden here at Crystal Cottage about to do a repotting and propagation video all about my Crassula ovata that has grown into a huge bush with lots of side shoots, and it's getting top heavy, so it's time to get in and prune it back. Now these plants are very resilient and you can go in and prune back and they will bounce back with new branches on them in no time. So I am going to get a lot of new plants out of this one pot I have here, and I am doing this today on my mum's birthday, the 11th of June. So happy birthday to you, mummy. I know that if you were here you would love to have one of my cuttings that I'm going to be making from this plant today, and if it should ever be possible in the future, then you can take one home with you to England. But let me get on with pruning this plant back and I will tell you what I do as I go along. This is going to be so much fun, but at the same time I'm a little bit about it because it looks beautiful as a bush as it is. Now you've probably already seen it. It's hiding over my shoulder here, so I'll go back now so you can see it better. Can you see me? This is my beautiful Crassula ovata, and look how big it is. I can just about get my arms around the sides, but definitely not round to the front. It is huge and I absolutely love it. Now I'm doing this today, it's a perfect day, it's bright outside but it's a little bit cloudy, so it's not burning hot direct sun on my plant because this plant hasn't been out in the sunshine, so I don't want to burn all the leaves now. So I will repot the plant into its new terracotta pot because at the moment it's in a plastic pot, in a catch pot here, and the soil is very compact, and this plant actually, when I came back to my cottage after 3 weeks, was completely wrinkled up all over, totally dehydrated, and it took a week after watering it a couple of times for all the leaves to plump up again, but it has, and it's happy. Half the plant had turned red, the side that was facing our western window, because it was so dried out and stressed, and that has all turned green again now. So this plant changes colour from green to yellow to red, all sorts of different colours. If this was outside in the summer sun now here, it would turn bright red, the whole thing. But anyway, I have these branches down here at the bottom that are hanging out and hanging over. They are all kind of suckers, as I would say, that have grown out of the bottom, and they are ready to become plants of their own right. They're just hanging over. The same on this side, and in between all of these lovely thick stems there are suckers coming up, and they all need to be taken out because they're taking energy from the main stems. The way to get this plant to grow into a lovely thick stemmed bushy plant is that you do have to go in every other year and prune it back to give it a tight look, and also to allow the stems to grow out thicker. Otherwise your plant will grow up taller and taller but on thinner stems, and it will be scraggly, and eventually the stems will just fall over and snap off and you will have to start over anyway. So I'm getting in to do this now while this plant is in the perfect state, is hydrated. So when I go in and prune off all of the stems, I know they're hydrated enough to be left on the side for a short while to callus over and then be planted into terracotta pots of their own right, and I have them here next to me, and I might have to get a few more. We'll see how many I get out of this, probably a lot of new plants, so I'm going to have to give some away as gifts because I won't have space for all of them, that's for sure. So the first thing I'm thinking of doing is removing all of the side stems here that are growing out big and strong, so that I'll be able to see the rest of the main stems of my plant, and then I can put the rest of it in its plastic pot in this terracotta pot here, compact the soil around the edge, make an inverted sandcastle, and then lift out the plastic pot and hopefully be able to just put my plant down in the hole that's left, crossing fingers it doesn't just go and collapse, and then I will be able to easily and quickly repot my plant. So let me first get on here with pruning back all of these side stems and suckers around the bottom. But to do this I need to actually take the plant out of its catch pot so that I can really get into the bottom of the stems. And you'll see that its pot is actually very small. Oh, this plant is extremely heavy. Ooh. There we go. So as you can see, all of this plant is in a very small container, and it's been very happy with that, but it's time to rehome it. Let's make the first snip. Snippety snip, snip, snip. That's the first one, a whole huge plant. So here I have quite a few more stems to get off from around the edge, and they are just to slice through like butter. They are so juicy and easy to cut through. So right, I've already got a lot of these stems off at the side, and I'll just bring some of these in to show you. These are all lovely, new, perfect sized plants in their own right. Look at these. If you put these in a pot together, that is a perfect plant already. Big and already looks mature. So that is no problem. You can see the bottoms here. You can just let these bottoms here callus over for a couple of hours or a couple of days, even if you want to. And then they will be ready to plant directly into soil in a terracotta pot with dry soil so that you don't start rotting them out. Give them time to adjust. They won't need to be watered for over a week after you've potted them. So if the soil is slightly moist, fine, but otherwise do not water them for at least a week. Just let them live off all of the moisture that's in the leaves and in the stems. They'll be fine. When they start wrinkling, in fact, that is when you could go in and water them the first time, and that could be around 2 weeks. So just don't go in and think you've got to go and water them now. Leave them like this. Absolutely beautiful. Every single leaf, every part of the stem, everything on this plant can be propagated. And when you want to propagate back from the main plant, it's so heavy I can't bring it here to show you, so I'm going to show you on these cuttings instead. You'll see there are rings around on the stem. That is where a new branch will grow out. As you can see on this one here, there's a branch that's growing out on this one. There you go. You can see it's growing out of the ring there. So just bear that in mind when you're going in pruning back your plant if you want to encourage new branching out on the main stem. And I'll be doing that when I go in and prune back a little bit more. But I just took these off as far down as I could on the plant. I know those parts of the stems are going to start flushing out a new stem anyway, and I don't want that, so I'm going to have to go in and constantly prune those off. But on the main plant, when you're getting the branches and you want them to grow stems in certain directions and so forth, make sure you keep an eye on where the rings are, and then you'll know where to prune. When it comes to the main plant and you want to keep a certain shape and you don't want it getting top heavy and leaning over too much like this one was, you can see it's all growing at the top here. You can prune the end off, and you can prune as many of the branches off as you want to, and then leave an upright branch there where you want the plant to carry on growing, and it will grow out from that branch instead of all over the place on the stem. So let me get on now with repotting the mother plant. So as I said, I want to make an inverted sandcastle. So I'll fill up the bottom of this pot to the height that I think I need, test it, keep testing until I get the right height. This plant must not be planted lower than the lowest level of the soil that it's already in so that you don't smother the main stem. So that's very important to remember. So I'll keep testing out that until I get the level I need. So this ended up working out very quickly and easily. Now I can just fill around with the soil, compact it, pull my plant out of the plastic pot and then put it back in the hole. That moment when I can get my hands in the soil, this is so much fun. So now I think I'm just about ready to pull out my plant and hopefully be able to just get it in this hole. So out it comes, and let's see if we can get this plant out. This is not going to be as easy as I thought. I am going to have to cut open the plastic pot because this plant is so tightly bound to it. It's been in this pot for years. So this is a bit of a struggle because the edge of the plastic is a bit sharp and hard, but I managed to break through. Ooh, I did it. So just before I repot it, I just want to show you the roots. There you go, not many roots going on, but it was completely root bound in the pot. But these plants, they really don't need many roots. So this is now perfect to get into its terracotta pot. So luckily these stems are really sturdy, so it's really easy for me to lift up this plant and place it in the hole in the pot like a glove. Look how easily my plant slid into the inverted sandcastle in this pot. That was such an easy repot. I'm so happy about this. So now I just need to carry on filling up with soil around the edge, but I just want to prune those stems that I've already pruned back a little bit more so they're lower down in the soil area. So a little bit more pruning and shaping. I feel like I'm kind of creating myself a bonsai tree. Well, it is actually. So hasn't this just turned out magnificently? And if you look at my plant right now, You can't see that I've pruned off all of those stems that I have lying down at the front here already. And I'm going to just take a little bit more off, but not just that, I need to go in between now and prune back ends and side shoots and so forth that are going to be weighing the plant down too much from the top still. Just thin it out a little bit and then it will bounce back and rejuvenate itself and grow up into this lovely ball that it is. So let me get on with a little bit more pruning now. So just a few finishing touches to keep that lovely round form that this plant has always had. So there we go. I've pruned my plant back now to the shape I want it to be. I want to make sure that I expose as many of these wonderful thick stems as possible because they really are a beautiful part of this whole plant system here. I haven't pruned off from the top. I will allow my plant to grow up and bush out more here. I've pruned off all of these side shoots as you see here in the front here. I have a stem that I will allow to get a new stem on the side and grow out here and fill out this space. So don't worry about that being bare, it will grow back. And any other place I've pruned back, this plant will start trying to grow out a new stem. Some areas I don't want it to stem out, so I'll have to keep pruning those back until the plant learns to stop producing a stem there and carry on concentrating with the top area. But for now, this is absolutely wonderful and I don't want to do anything more with this plant. It's going to fill out once again. The stems are just gorgeous on this plant. So now, as you can see, I have a whole hive of plants in front of me down here. I am just going to leave all of this now for an hour and then I'm going to actually just pot them up because my soil is only slightly moist. And I think if I just give these a quick hour to callus over a little bit, that will be enough for me to go ahead and pot these up. I've actually done this before where I have not left them to callus over at all, put them straight into a new pot, and those plants have done absolutely fine for me. I don't really have that much patience, so once I'm in my flow, I just want to get on with it all. So I usually do just plant plants straight into soil. As long as it's slightly moist or dry, then they will callus over themselves in the pot. But if you want to be on the safe side, at least an hour, up to a week, you can leave all these stems lying there callusing over. Depends where you live in the world. In California, where these are growing everywhere, like weeds basically, they just cut a piece off and plonk it in the ground, no problem. But I'm in Sweden. The temperature isn't as hot and warm as it is there. So I can't just go and do that, but my plants aren't outside anyway. They're house plants here, so I can do that. They're going to be indoors and they will be getting the light from the window and they will be fine. I'm putting them in terracotta pots as well so that they won't get overwatered. They will be able to dry out quite quickly as the water seeps out the side of the pot. The bottom, there's a drainage hole of course, and through the top. The soil I've used is a gardening mixed with a lot of sand and leckables to make sure that the soil stays loose, aerating, and that water can flow through it. So as I said, if you really are unsure about how much you should water your plant, you can leave it until the leaves start wrinkling and then you'll see the plant is dehydrated and needs watering, like this was for actually 2 weeks ago it was now. And it was really, really dehydrated. Now it's just plumped up beautifully. So I really never want to overwater my plants, but I usually don't let them get dehydrated so that they start wrinkling. But if that happens, not a problem, water your plant and it will plump up again. So let me just take a little break here and then I'll be back to show you the repotting of all these lovely cuttings I have now, and they will be soil propagation. So right, a little bit of time has gone and now I am ready to pot up all of my cuttings here. And you can see I have all from small pieces to longer, taller pieces that I want to keep taller like this and put into a little bit bigger terracotta pots. So behind me I have a whole arrangement of different sizes of terracotta pots to put these in, and I'll be putting a few stems in each pot to make them look like full lush plants straight away. Now something I wanted to show you with these plants is that they do grow aerial roots. So if you look at this little one here, it's full of aerial roots there at the back. There you go, you can see the aerial roots there. And that just shows you how quick and easy they are to propagate. You can just put that straight into soil and that plant is ready to go. So that's why it's no problem doing this kind of propagation. They will grow out roots at the bottom here, they will grow roots out along the stems, and as I said, everything can be propagated, and it really is the best suggestion to propagate these directly in soil so that they can grow out their roots and carry on straight away, because they can survive a long time without roots. So if you already put them in the pot, even if they don't get roots for a month, they will be fine in that pot. The only thing you must remember not to do is water them when you've put them in their new pots. Leave them for a week to 2 weeks before you give them any water. If they're in terracotta pots, you can water through a little bit, fine. If you've got them in plastic, make sure you do not water them too much because they will rot out straight away. You can, as I said before, leave them till the leaves start to slightly crinkle, then you know that plant is asking for water. Let me get all these potted up now. So look at this wonderful arrangement of terracotta pots in front of me here. I don't know how many I have placed out here at the moment. I haven't counted. And you can see the size of them compared to my mother plant here in her huge pot compared to these. But they're all going to be fantastic. So the first thing I'm going to do is put some soil into the bigger pots and place my longer stems in those and see what kind of arrangement I make. Either 1, 2, 3 or 4 stems in one pot to make a fuller plant straight away. Any lower stems on the trunk of the new plant I can just prune off, and I can prune and shape the top of the plant once I've planted it to see how I want it to look. So here we go, soil in the pots and pruning off a few more of the branches and rearranging these plants so they look like something you've bought directly from a plant centre. How wonderful is that? So that was my first propagation in soil, ready to go, pruned back a little bit around the edges and has a lovely shape. So now I can put this on the side and get on with the next one. Next one. I have so many more next ones to get through. I have a whole beautiful arrangement, and seeing these stems being put into pots is just, it's just filling me with so much joy. And I know that these are going to give other people so much joy because I can't keep all of these in my cottage here. Crystal Cottage will just become a jade plant sanctuary, the Crassula ovata kingdom. Now, I'm going to have to give some of these lovely plants away with time, and people will appreciate them just as much as I do. They are not going to take any time at all to get a few more roots, and then, yeah, they can go on. But this is such joy for me, being out in my garden, doing things with my plants. So now I am completely finished with the potting up of all my lovely cuttings from my mother Crassula ovata. Now I just have pots and pots full of this beautiful jade plant. I love this plant. Oh, I'm so happy I have so many of them now. And as I said, none of these are going to be watered for a week or 2. And then I can slowly give them top watering until they start growing out roots. So you won't soak these through because otherwise the soil will stay wet too long and they will rot out still. So after a week or 2, just a little bit of water to keep it moist around the top where the roots are growing out every week, once a week. And then once they're established, then they can be thoroughly watered through. Not even the mother plant here is going to be watered for a while because she needs to acclimatise now to her new, bigger pot, plus having been pruned back all over. But she will bounce back and have no problem, I'm sure of that. Aren't jade plants just amazing succulents? So now, before I finish off my video, I just want to take you in for a closer look so you can see all the different examples here. I place stems into the pots, I place top parts into the pots, and we'll just see how this goes. I mean, I have so many examples and they should all take off wonderfully for me. Look at all this that you can get from one beautiful big plant you go out and buy. Now, we often think that larger plants are expensive to buy, but in the end, if you're going to propagate your plant, that one big plant will become a money tree. Or you would get so many gifts to share with your loved ones and friends, and the plants go on. Your same plant will go on and live in different homes as part of your mother plant still. And that is absolutely wonderful to think about. So now it's time to go in for a closer look at all of my beautiful new Crassula ovatas, so you can get to see how wonderful they all are in their individual pots, and how I've clipped and pruned them back, and what they look like in the soil and in terracotta pots, and just feel the joy that I am feeling right now. Surrounded by one of my favourite plants. Let's go in for that closer look. So here they all are, like one big happy family. Look at all these wonderful baby plants down here. Lush green, beautiful plump leaves on them all. Very healthy, very happy. This plant has had no kind of problem since I've had it. And it's loved living in the bathroom here at our Crystal Cottage, where we have a west-facing window. So it does get direct late afternoon sun on it, but it gets a lot of bright indirect light, and it's absolutely loving that. You can see the top, or the bottom I should say, of the shoots there on the side, and these two here where I pruned back, and I'm expecting new buds and new branches to form. And look at the crown of this plant. It's absolutely beautiful in front of our Crystal Cottage there. All the way round, these stems are so thick and lush. I mean, they're a joy to see. And I love it even more now that I can see them clearly, that I've taken away all of the suckers so that the stems become an architectural piece of the whole plant. They are just so beautiful, so amazing. And then up into the crown, it's just fantastic. And this is, I think, there are quite a few main stems in here. 4 main stems maybe. And yeah, it just looks wonderful together. And then you can see one of the taller pots I've plotted up here. Looks like a full and happy big plant already, and then a few more smaller ones underneath. And I still haven't counted exactly how many plants I have. I probably have, including the mother plant, like 15 pots. And most of them have 3, 4 stems in them. So you can hear the amount of plants you can produce. If you only put 1 stem in each pot, then I would be like 40 plants here or something like that. But if you want to get a nice lush thick effect, even in the smaller plants, then you'll need to plant a few stems in together, and then it just looks beautiful. Look at this tall one here. Lovely stems already. These were side shoots, and now they've become beautiful main stems on a completely new plant. But look how small it is compared to the mother plant, even though they look quite large close up. The back of this mother plant, that thick stem there at the back. Oh, it's to die for. Look at this closer up. Amazing. And this is possible due to this plant having been pruned back every other year. Now, the garden centre that I bought this from has a lot of these plants in all sorts of sizes. Some were much bigger than this one. And he said that's the secret. You need to go in and prune them every other year, so that they don't just get long and straggly, and the stem will just get thicker and thicker and thicker, like on a normal large tree. So I'm really glad that I've cleared out the bottom stems so that we can really see that. But this whole group of plants, I'm amazed how many wonderful pots I managed to pot up today out in the garden. And it's a cloudy day, and that has just been perfect. So I haven't had to worry about any of my leaves burning out on this plant. It's even drizzled a little bit. So I really hope you enjoyed seeing all of these wonderful plants closer up. My mother Jade plant here and all her lovely little baby plants around her down here. And again, this plant is just so special to me. It reminds me of family members. It reminds me of my nan that passed away many years ago that had one of these. This plant always reminds me of my mum. She loves this plant as well. And that is why today, the 11th of June 2021, was the perfect day to get on and get this job done on my mum's birthday so she can see all of these beautiful plants. So, if any of you have any comments about pruning and propagating your Crassula ovata, repotting or anything else, any ideas and suggestions for me and other people, please write them down in the comments below. That would be fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you to all of you wonderful subscribers out there for helping to grow my channel. I am so thankful for all of your subscriptions. That is just wonderful. Thank you so much. Anyway, now I need to take all of these plants into my cottage and find places to put them. Many of these pups are going to be around the bottom of my mother plant here and look wonderful together. Some will be in windowsills. I would prefer to keep them out in the garden for the summer, but I don't dare to here because I've seen the deer coming into the garden quite a lot lately and they've been chewing up on my evergreen bushes on the stems, so I need to go and put cages around those. So I don't dare to put these luscious green leaves out here because they will just munch them up and they will be gone. So they are all going to be staying indoors in safety. Anyway, all I have to say now is thank you very much once again for watching Gardens and Crystals with me, Wesley Peterson. Please remember to like, subscribe and hit the bell so you know when my next video will be coming up, and I will see you again very, very soon. Goodbye.